Tell me who you are and tell me a little bit about yourself.
My name is Kelly Siegler. I started as a prosecutor when I was 23 years old. I know, having done a job as a prosecutor and getting those phone calls from officers all over Texas wanting help on their old cases, how many there are out there just waiting to be worked on. And I think that if we could do that and give them that assistance and expertise and time, there's a lot of good and help we could do. I brought you all the way to Texas to look at the 1992 murder case of Natasha Atchley, probably the biggest unsolved case in this part of Texas.
There have been more theories here than I can remember in any case I've worked in a long time.
I've always wanted to work this case. I'm very stressed, and I'm glad you're here. Ever since I first had the idea for this TV show, I've always wanted to work one case, the 30-year-old brutal murder of Natasha Atchley. It got all kinds of national attention, and that was because of the book and the podcast and the national newspapers.
I think this case is crazy. Her body was found dead inside her own trunk.
The scene was so gruesome. Natasha's remains had been burned down to just her bones.
Natasha's working at the Dairy Queen and just got her a new apartment, about to start going to college. She was a popular girl. Everybody liked her. Natasha was fun-loving, and she was always the life of the party. She had just gotten accepted to college, which would have started that next chapter of her life, when it was tragically cut short. The night she ends up being last seen, there's a party, and everybody knew she could get kind of wild at times.
Alcohol, maybe the use of LSD, it certainly doesn't qualify for somebody to wind up dead at the end of the evening.
Yeah.
It's just a bad way to go.
On May the 3rd, 1992, Natasha attended this party where there was a lot of drug use and alcohol use, and at some point that night, she just sped off intoxicated. And the very next day, her body was found in the rear of her smoldering car, burned beyond recognition. Rumors quickly spread that someone from the party had killed her and then set her car on fire to cover their tracks.
The body burned up. We really don't have a cause of death. Even the skull has got heat fractures where that skull basically fragmented and exploded in the back of that car.
So heat fractures or normal fractures are going to be hard to say.
It is. Nothing destroys evidence quite like a fire. And that unknown has created a mystery of speculation and theories.
For the last 30 years, the Texas Rangers were driving the investigation, and now we have a brand new sheriff and a brand new elected DA. This is the first time ever on the biggest case in this part of Texas they have allowed anybody to read their whole file. We got to get somewhere, Steve, make something happen.
Hope so. Steve.
Charles Doherty, nice to meet you.
Charles.
Mark, how you
Nice to
doing?
meet you, sir.
Great
Sheriff,
to
I like your hat.
Yes, sir. Thank
Man,
you.
it's good to see you.
Yes, ma'am. My pleasure.
Y'all ready to get to work, guys?
Ready? Yes, ma'am.
When I wanted to work this case all these years, this is the picture that I see in my head.
The whole county's still affected by the murder of Natasha Atchley.
What's your favorite one, Martin? Is that her little? That's kind of cute.
For the last 30 years, multiple law enforcement agencies as well as the Texas Rangers got involved and opened up a pretty intense investigation. This is a very confusing case, but I'm looking forward to reopening this investigation with a fresh set of eyes.
Natasha was 19 when this happened.
She was popular.
Had a lot of friends. Everybody that talks about her describes her as fun, the life of the party, ready to go, vivacious, feisty, and spunky.
A young lady with her whole life ahead of her.
Can you start with the front of the story?
On May the 3rd of 1992, a deputy with the San Jacinto County Sheriff's Office was originally dispatched to a car fire smoldering in this Royal area in the woods. He assumed at the time that maybe it was just an insurance job or a stolen vehicle. You know, that's not uncommon in this area. The vehicle was towed to a tow yard. They discovered that the license plate was from Natasha's car. It was Mother's Day weekend. Natasha didn't show up Sunday to her mother's residence. At that point, Natasha's mother was notified that the vehicle was at the tow yard. So Natasha's mother goes to the tow yard, goes looking in the vehicle, gets to the trunk of the vehicle, and recognizes what she believes is a skull and some other bones. After forensic testing comes back, then they in fact are identified to be the body of Natasha.
A private lab was able to identify traces of an accelerant in Natasha's car, which they believed to be drip gas, an unrefined byproduct of fuel drilling. However, the rest of the crime scene was disturbed after they towed her car prematurely. This has been a major obstacle in trying to figure out how this murder unfolded.
We learned that Natasha had attended a party on May the 2nd, about a mile from where the vehicle was found. And after talking to multiple partygoers, it was determined that there was narcotics being used, namely LSD, marijuana, as well as drinking beer, huffing, things of that nature. Some point during the party, there was some sort of altercation. Natasha gets mad. She leaves the party with no explanation at the time she left the party.
I had no idea when I started reading this case how many crazy rumors there were out there, and gossip and speculation. Start looking through your notes. They don't need to be in any order, any rhyme or reason. Let's just knock them all out, okay?
One of the rumors that's going around is she's pregnant. He's married.
We gotta figure out if he was even at the party.
Right.
We heard about an angry baby daddy. And what about kids' parents interfered with the investigation? We had a judge's son, elected officials rumored to be at the party. So we got a cop interfering with your investigation, allegedly, corrupt lawmen, and even an organized crime hit.
That's a lot of rumors.
That's more than I've ever seen. While it's been great fodder for podcasts and books, have y'all read this? So all these stickies, these are even more rumors. The strongest rumors that keep popping up revolve around the people that were at the party. So at the party that night, Jim Morton.
He was 19 at the time.
And Cindy Henning.
She had just turned 17.
Somebody said that when Natasha got there, she thought Morton was going to hook up with her. But then Morton says, no, I'm going to bed with Cindy.
Jim Morton and Cindy Henning were arrested because a witness came forward claiming that they assaulted Natasha after Natasha left the party. However, that witness later recanted, so Jim and Cindy were then released. But is there a seed of truth to their involvement?
Well, the story is Cindy is getting her ass kicked by Natasha at this fight. So Morton steps in and finishes the fight.
Morton's kicking her in the head. That's a big rumor. So if there's a motive that night for Jim Morton to want Natasha dead, it's got to be revolving around Cindy.
Yeah.
She used to live with Natasha, and it wasn't a happy relationship.
No.
Who's another witness against Jim Morton?
A guy who's in jail says that Morton confesses to him that he's the one who killed Natasha.
Okay, we got him on our list.
Yeah.
Okay, next. 17-year-old Kevin Malone.
Kevin Malone, because he's with him.
Any issues between Natasha and Kevin at the party? He's the one supplying the LSD.
Right.
He's the one that said she took him 3 hits of LSD.
Jim and Cindy and Kevin leave the party shortly after
Yes.
Natasha leaves.
The only people that leave the party are these three.
I mean, that's the thing. Did they catch up to her and kill her?
Yeah.
There's no evidence Kevin had any issues with Natasha. But leaving with Jim and Cindy that night leaves him in the middle of this investigation. If there was an altercation between them and Natasha, the heavy use of drugs and alcohol at the party could have played a role in escalating that tension into murder.
Now, who else in our party world needs to go up here?
Chad.
Chad McGregor. I made Chad in my head our best suspect because witnesses said she saw him hiding down in the car when Natasha drove off. Why else do we have Chad up there? Back in town before the party, she'd been talking to Chad's baby mama and ex, who was bad-mouthing Chad. So when she pulls up to the party, she comes out swinging at Chad.
Just came up and punched him and kicked him.
Why are you being so shitty to my friend? And what's fact? We'll need to first sort through all the speculation to figure out if we have enough evidence to build a circumstantial case against whoever is responsible for Natasha's murder. A lot of the people in Natasha's family have passed away. Her mom is gone, her dad's gone, her grandparents are gone. So who are we going to go meet with today?
Chad, Natasha's half-brother.
I think he'll like it that after 30 years y'all are still working so hard on it, and let him know how motivated you are. That'll make him feel good too. For the last 9 years of her life, Natasha's mother fought for her daughter's justice. You must be Chad. I'm Kelly.
Nice to meet you. Charles Dory. Nice to meet you. Yes, sir.
Hopefully we can bring Natasha's little brother the answers this family has desperately been waiting for.
I guess a good starting point would be, what can you tell me about Natasha?
So she was a typical teenager in a small country town, very fun-loving, loved going full speed, loved to party, because she was wild. There is no denying that. Of course, being 8 years difference. I didn't get to spend all that time with her, because she was her little brother tagging along. When she did involve me, it was fun. I don't recall us ever really fighting. Natasha was always fun, supportive, liked to push you past your limits. So that was the main sparkle about her, that no fear, that love for life.
So, do you remember the day that y'all found out what happened?
Yeah, Mom was kind of in hysterics that day. I think she found out about the car missing. Why was her car burned? Why was she not at her house that morning? That's when she went with my aunt to the record yard. She was searching the car, and she saw her jewelry on the front, and then she went back to the back of the car. She first saw a bone. She thought some kind of animal was in the back of the car, until she looked up and saw the skull, realizing that that's my daughter's skull. She's pretty much in hysterics at that point.
Yeah. As a mother, I can't even imagine the horror that Natasha's mother felt when she went into that car and saw her baby's skull. And then never getting to know who was responsible for doing that had to have magnified that pain by 1,000 times.
And it just broke her. From that moment on, she changed. We were taken care of, but at the same time, she kind of wasn't there. You could see her mind was always concentrated on Natasha. And the why, what happened.
So you didn't just lose your sister, you kind of lost your mom too.
Yeah, it definitely shook the family up.
I bet. This is an article, Praying for the Truth, written by your mom. Is there a rainbow after the rain? I don't want to rain on anyone else's parade while remembering Natasha with love. What do you remember about why your mom would write articles like this?
To not let the case die. That, and I think it was an emotional release for her.
Lieutenant Dougherty and I and our partners are going to try and get to the bottom of everything we can.
I'm just thankful that y'all are even taking the time. The amount of people that remained pushing for her justice truly is heartwarming to know that she's still loved even after all these years.
This is involving the Natasha Ashley case. 30 years later, we're looking through these reports, and I'm contacting everybody and anybody that was there.
The last time 19-year-old Natasha Ashley was seen alive, she was driving away recklessly from a party.
Refreshing to see that people are looking into it again.
Absolutely.
Nice to meet you. How are you?
It's always going to be a challenge when your most important witnesses were kids back then, especially when they were using alcohol and drugs. But if Natasha did have an altercation at the party, or if there's evidence supporting any of these rumors, we're hoping 30 years later they still remember it.
So Natasha and I were very close growing up. She was
Really?
like a sister to me.
I've known her for years. They were really well. We were
Right.
good friends and hung out all the time.
Natasha was a friend of mine.
Right.
It was pretty devastating.
What kind of vibe was at the party?
It was definitely alcohol and just like a basic party, young people outside, music playing. And
Natasha, is she intoxicated when she shows up?
Oh, yes.
Okay, she was drinking what?
Straight Crown Royal.
Straight Crown Royal?
And she showed me her bottle of Crown. She was
Do
drinking.
you remember how much was in the Crown?
There wasn't a ton left in the bottle.
I know for a fact Natasha took acid because I know that Kevin Malone was out there and gave her some. But some gossip things have gotten kind of outlandish. I was like, and there was no type of authority figure there. And I feel like a politician would have really stood out to me and made me feel uncomfortable.
Did you ever hear that she might have been pregnant? Did Natasha ever tell you she might have been pregnant that night?
No, I never heard that.
Okay. Were there any problems between Natasha and any of your partygoers that night, pushing, fighting, that you can remember?
Did you ever see any arguments or any type of fights going on at the party?
Not that I recall. I do remember that Chad McGregor unzipped her, vest or something, and I think she slapped him or something like that, but that was more of like a joking kind of thing.
I remember when she first got there, her and Chad had gotten into it, but it wasn't like a fight or an argument. It was more like horsing around.
Right.
Bickering.
More of a horseplay type.
Yeah.
People said Chad McGregor did. I said, well, heck, he was in the room all night with, all of us. So I don't see how.
She was a little just frustrated. She kind of left out of there aggressively.
She was hot-headed. She was most certainly hot-headed. And if everyone was drinking and doing drugs at that time, they could have hit her and then freaked out.
It's possible that with the passage of time and the partying that night has left the witnesses with foggy memories. Or maybe nothing happened that actually stood out. Whatever the case, we don't have any concrete evidence of foul play between our suspects and Natasha. But connecting one of them to the accelerant used in this fire could be it.
What did y'all know about drip gas?
Drip gas, like DRIP?
Yeah,
Drip gas?
yeah.
I don't know that I've ever heard that term.
Do you know what drip gas is? With anything at that party at all, where anybody's doing bonfires, using drip gas or anything outside? Anything that you remember?
I don't even remember a fire outside.
Nothing outside.
Yeah, no.
I would assume that you didn't know there was oil tanks out there, or no knowledge of that.
Even to this point today, I don't necessarily know what drip gas is.
Can you turn that music down that's playing in the background? I can barely hear you.
Yeah. Let me turn that down.
Yeah, thank you.
We reached out to an inmate who was incarcerated with Jim Morton shortly after the murder. He claims Jim actually admitted to being involved. And now we want to see if there's any credibility to this alleged jailhouse confession.
It says here that you wanted to talk on an inmate named Morton, that you had some information about this case. Can you kind of fill me in on what it was that you were wanting to talk to law enforcement about at that time, or?
Yeah, well, the thing was, the old boy was talking about he was at that party. Morton was. Well, I didn't really know this guy. He was just throwing his weight around, talking about, well, I know where the bodies are. And I'm like, okay. I thought it may have been a big old batch of bravado. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Trying to look like he's tough, keep his ass from getting whooped in jail.
Anything else that stuck out?
Nothing. No, and I even actually, after that, I tried to get him to say something about it, but he didn't say anything to me to where I can actually say yes or no. You know what I'm saying?
This witness has certainly changed his tune 30 years later. This is a prime example of why you always have to be skeptical of a jailhouse informant. Damn.
I got that Texas flag right there on their mouth.
This is her?
Yep, there.
While we've cleared up some of the rumors, we still haven't found any evidence that directly points to our party suspects. Can you come in the car, Miss Birmingham, so we can record it and we have all of our notes in there? You can get in the front and I'll hop in the back.
Sure.
Is that okay?
That's fine.
Dina Birmingham attended the party that night and was a close friend of our suspect, Cindy. She may be able to shed some light on what she saw or if Cindy has said anything in.
I don't know. I mean, she sped off. I remember that clearly. I mean, to this day, she sped off, and that was it. But I don't remember why, or I don't.
Did you ever see her actually get into it with anybody physically?
No.
Did you ever see her actually get into it with anybody arguing?
No.
What do you remember about the fact that Jim and Cindy and Kevin left the party?
So they were taking Kevin home. They asked me to go. I was like, no, I'm not going anywhere.
So they asked you to go and said, right then, we're taking Kevin home.
Right.
That's important because that shows they weren't going after Natasha because somebody was pissed off.
Yeah, no, none of them were mad. No.
Okay.
And it was like, I don't know, really early in the morning whenever they took Kevin home.
How long after Natasha left do you remember them leaving?
More than an hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
When Jim and Cindy came back, did you see anything unusual? Did they act unusual, like they'd been in the middle of some kind of thing like that? Nothing. The case against Cindy Henning is looking more and more like it's based just on rumors and hearsay rather than fact. Maybe it's time we talk to Cindy.
We'll see if she's even going to answer us.
I know. We gave Cindy a call, but she is not willing to speak to us again.
I tried.
You did a good job. However, she did respectfully explain to us that she has said all she wanted to say back then, and she has nothing more to add to that today. The most important thing is that you asked her if everything that she said back then was true, which is the same thing you would ask her in person. And when you read all the stuff out there, do you blame her for not wanting to come down here? Her position is, I'm done talking to law enforcement. Is that because she has something to hide? Is that because she's frustrated at 30 years of rumors pointing at her? There's a lot of reasons why she could be hesitant, but I'm kind of disappointed because she won't answer our specific questions.
Hi, I'm Dr. Canary.
Charles Doherty.
Nice to meet you.
We know that an accelerant was determined to be in the front of Natasha's car while her remains were scattered in the back. The fact that Natasha's car was towed prematurely has posed problems in determining of her bone somehow moved in transit. We're hoping that Dr. Kathy Paneri can provide some insight.
The set of remains are very incomplete, and they're completely fragmented and charred. I've seen a lot of car fires. This is cremated type of fire. So that is a testament to how hot this fire is. Basically, all we have are fragments, part of the skull, a bunch of fragments of the face, fragments of long bones, and this trunk area. This doesn't tell you where the body started, necessarily. But what we have here are a bunch of the vertebrae, the bones of the spine. Typically, where you find the most vertebrae, that's where the body was. You have the ribs going next to them, too. You're not going to get this appearance if these bones are being washed here. You're not going to get all the vertebrae to stay in this little area here. They're going to be scattered around. She wasn't in one of the passenger seats or the driver's seat. She was in the back of the vehicle when this fire happened.
She's for sure in the back of the car. She's in the hatchback area of the car. There's not any movement or shifting or tilting with the tow truck driver.
Nope. I can't tell if she was alive at the time of the fire, she had trauma. All of that's out the window because of the condition of the remains. So the cause and manner of death are going to be undetermined.
According to Dr. Paneri, Natasha's body was in the rear of her car, where the fire actually started in the front. You would think that if the intent of the arson was to hide evidence of the murder, that the body itself would have been lit. But that's not what happened in this case. It kind of feels like we're missing something here.
So we're saying that our arsonist set the fire on the passenger side and then shut the door, and her bones and remains are going to end up back at the hatchback, right? What am I saying wrong? Because that's not making any sense to me.
This is definitely one of the focal points of this whole...
No kidding. Going out here might be
curious
more important than any single witness that we're talking to. We're headed to the dirt road where Natasha's car was discovered to try and piece together what we think happened. We brought in a Camaro similar to Natasha's, as well as the San Jacinto County DA and an ADA and other experts to join us to help with their areas of expertise. Okay, so let's talk about the roads back then, 30 years ago.
This place was just a rutted dirt trail. Not very different from this. It had rained the night before. It rained the night the car was found.
Okay.
You see a bunch of sago palms and stuff like that in the side. That means there's a lot of water retention here.
All right.
The rear wheels are stuck in some sort of mud, some sort of puddle.
Anybody want to talk about how deep we think this hole is? Because we're acknowledging that some of this water could have come from the firemen, and some of the rain could have come after she was stuck. But still, the depth of the hole, what do we think?
In a rut, easily a foot.
That deep?
Yeah.
I thought y'all were going to say 3 inches.
No.
Dang.
That could have been it.
What does it mean? She can't get out of the hole?
She's stuck.
She's stuck. Okay.
One other thing I wanted to take a look at, too, is look at the door sill. This is where the door actually opens.
So how many of y'all have ever, and you would just park too close to a curb, you couldn't open the door and get out, right? It wouldn't open because of this.
Speaking of that, she may have high centered.
High center being
all wheels are all off the ground.
All wheels are off the ground.
On the ground.
On the ground.
And this wheel is spinning, which is the right rear wheel spinning. That's what looks deeper on this side. And this one's not moving because it's high centered. It just stays there. And this one's constantly spinning.
And it digs a hole.
And it digs a hole.
Basically, the drive wheels are no longer in contact with the ground, so you're getting more stuck.
Okay.
When Natasha's car became high-centered, a wall of mud along the sides of the car likely blocked the doors from opening, trapping her inside, not allowing anyone else access to that vehicle. So how would our killer pull this off? One of the theories was she got into a fight here, got her ass kicked, and then that's always been this. They throw her in a car and set it on fire.
If the car is high-centered, how are we going to open the door to take her this way?
The cops show up here. They find no footprints anywhere around the outside of the car. There's no indications of cars going out of here.
One set of tracks.
One set of tracks that comes and stops. There's no indication she ever got out of that car.
The other thing is, if that's the theory, and we think it's high-centered and the doors won't open, how are those killers going to open the door to set the fire open? The door won't open.
And they've got in their report, they said the windows were up at the time of the fire. There's obvious problems with the theory that Natasha was murdered. Number one, the killer would have no way of opening the block doors, attack Natasha, and set fire to the front seat. And number two, there's no tracks or footprints from another perpetrator outside of Natasha's vehicle. So how could a killer have followed her here, or escaped after it was done?
Okay, so is it possible that Natasha's sitting in the front seat of her car, trying to get it to go because she's stuck, panicking, whatever you want to call it. Her doors won't open. She can't get unstuck, and she climbs in the back to get out this way. And then there's the fire. Oh my God! All of a sudden, there's the fire, and it's too late. And now she's stuck back here, and she can't get out. Why can't that work?
She's drunk on whiskey, marijuana, LSD. She's hallucinating. She's seeing things that aren't there. Trying to roll the window down. It's not coming down. The vehicle's off. It's electric. Hey, I think let me go through the trunk. Then by this time,
it's too late.
It's too late.
Is there a release back here?
No, sir.
If you climbed in the back and you're trying to get through here, you couldn't pull a release and
You
get
can't
out.
pull a release on this vehicle.
And that would take a lot of...
No, you're not breaking this glass.
If she sets the fire inside with all the windows closed, and if it starts burning those seats, carpet, or the accelerant, it's going to quickly fill up with superheated toxic gas, carbon monoxide, robbing of all the oxygen inside. She's not going to have a lot of time.
It could be anywhere from seconds to minutes, depending on the amount of heat.
I don't think she could crawl back here if the fire was started in the vehicle. She's trying to get over those back seats.
I can do it. Looky here. If you're in this car and you want to get out, you can come through here. It's going to be a squeeze. You can get out. You're going to get out or you're going to die. Trying to...
But how does the accelerant get in her vehicle?
Is there something in that car? You know, does she run out of gas and carry gas with her?
But we don't have any residue of a melted container.
Right.
She might have had that drip gas in her tank in the rear end with her sitting there spinning, heat up enough to set it out.
There's no evidence of the tank rupturing in an explosion. I think it all
Hitting a bunch of bumps before she hit the final bump wouldn't do it?
We're confident the fire started in the passenger floorboard only because of articles we have from the lab at the time that show drip gas.
If this is drip gas, right?
If it is.
If it is, it's an incendiary fire, I agree. I can't explain this in there. It's not there naturally, and that leads back to a suspect.
Because right now we have no evidence of a second person.
Right.
The lab report and experts say that there has to be an accelerant involved in this fire for it to be this intense. The other evidence suggests that there's no way we can even show how an accelerant got inside Natasha's car. And we haven't talked to one single person from this party that ever even knew what drip gas was. Arson investigation has greatly evolved over the last 30 years, but it's still not a perfect science. So I hear what the experts are saying, but it does not make any sense to me. We're trying to start with the fact that she's dead. The fact that it got stuck is what starts this chain of events. If you're the killer and you bring the car out here because you want to burn her in it, then you get stuck. Your plan didn't work very well.
True.
If you're her and you think you're looking for your right road and you only got this far, that makes a lot more sense.
No, I agree.
I think it's crazy that on a case this well known, when we've been talking about it for 30 years, and I'm sitting here going, damn, is this even a murder case? We still have a whole lot to go through and talk about and figure out. But whatever the final answer is, it's a horrible way for her to have died. Throughout the years, the Texas Rangers and multiple agencies have been puzzled by Natasha Ashley's case. This is the cold case that I've wanted to work on my whole career. And now that we have been able to examine all of the evidence and the crime scene and the forensics, I'm having serious doubts that this is even a murder.
Hey, how you doing? Yeah, I'm Steve.
We can talk wherever you want.
Yeah,
Come sit down.
Just
Come
come
sit
down,
down.
man.
We tried to talk to Cindy, and now we're going to try and talk to our remaining suspects, Jim, Kevin, and Chad. The only thing that could convince me that this was a murder is a huge new piece of information or a confession.
We have been looking at it pretty hard and heavy.
I haven't got time, so whatever questions you guys have, I'll answer.
How well do you know Natasha? Like,
We're good friends.
I know that you apparently rode to the party with Natasha.
Yeah, absolutely. Hit from, I think both times I gave her one that wasn't as strong because she was already messed up.
Right.
So we get there and there was nothing that made me believe she was there for ill intentions. She was just there for a good time.
I do remember Natasha showing up.
Is she fighting, arguing with you, talking to you?
Not with me. Like I said, we sat there and talked a little bit. That's why I got confused about people saying that me and her got in an argument. Her and Chad got in an argument.
Right.
It wasn't me and Natasha.
You know what that argument was about between her and Chad, or?
I don't.
Natasha came there, pulled in there in her car. She was always kind of known as a wild child, Hellraiser.
Right.
She got out of the car, and if she sees me, gets angry, starts hitting me. I'm like, what the hell? You know, what's going on? She said,
Your girlfriend at the time?
she said, she told me what you've been saying about me. I ain't about you. I don't know what you're, She calmed down after I was like, I don't know what talking about after she was pissed at me.
And it was really more her that came at you for whatever reason.
Yeah, it was over pretty fast, if I recall.
Did you ever see her get into it verbally with anybody at the party? Besides you?
Not that I recall.
Not that you recall.
Was Cindy your girlfriend at night, on and
No,
off?
yeah, on and off.
Is Cindy upset with Natasha because Natasha wants to sleep with you?
Honestly, not that I remember.
There's no fight at the party at all between the girls, between you, nothing else?
No, sir. I don't know how long she was there. She wasn't there that long, I don't think. Maybe 45 minutes to an hour. I was standing on the porch, and her and Chad were over there talking.
She tried to leave. I know I got in the passenger seat of the car. At least once, if not twice, I put the shifter back into park, trying to keep her from driving off because she was so up.
Why was she leaving?
I don't know.
You don't remember?
Maybe I knew back then, but I don't remember.
Okay. What happened after that?
I, at one point, just got out.
Okay.
And she left.
And I've seen Natasha kind of take off, getting on the road, sliding sideways, and I remember Chad saying, she's crazy, she's crazy. And that was the last time I saw her.
She fishtails out. She says something when she leaves, like she's mad. She's like pissed off. What the is going on? I have no clue at this point. I'm like, well, what the that's not right. That's how I got here. And everybody's like, just let her go. I'm like, okay.
One of the witnesses says as Natasha took off in her car, she saw you hiding down in the passenger seat.
That's 100% false. Because I never freaking left that property.
About an hour later, I'm like, it's time for you to go. And I asked Jim and Cindy, I said, hey, come on, give me a ride. And they said, yeah, we'll give you a ride.
So me, Cindy, and Kevin got in my car and took Kevin back to his car at the bank.
Do you have any idea how long after that was that Natasha left?
Maybe 2 hours.
Okay.
You don't know how long after Natasha left that Jim and Cindy left?
No, and I don't think it was like right behind her.
Yeah.
Was there anything about their leaving that had to do with Natasha?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Do you know anything about drip gas?
Never until that day.
Do you remember seeing any kind of gas cans or anything out there at the house?
No.
Not out.
There?
Did you talk to Jim or Cindy after the fact when y'all found out what happened to Natasha? Was there any conversation between you and Jim?
I don't think so.
What has Jim ever told you about that night?
He's never told me anything. No one has ever told me anything about being involved.
All three of these suspects continue to be forthcoming, and the stories they're telling us today matches what they said in the initial investigation 30 years ago.
Did you kill Natasha?
No, sir.
Why wouldn't you have killed her? Tell me why you wouldn't have killed Natasha.
Why would I? I've never heard anything in my life.
So you actually went to jail for what, 30 days?
Something like that, yeah.
Why didn't you make a deal?
I didn't. I wasn't guilty.
I put myself out there and I could have gotten a lot of trouble. I told the grand jury everything.
You remember taking a polygraph?
Yeah.
What was all that like? Because back then you were
I was
20
very
years
nervous.
old.
I mean, it's scary at the time.
But you still cooperated.
Yeah, I have nothing to hide.
Everybody in this town has been looking at these three guys for the last 30 years like they were killers. But after talking to them, I think everybody got it wrong.
I told the cops I could possibly be the reason this happened. You know, I thought she committed suicide or had a bad trip. That's what scared me. You know, I thought it was my fault.
If I knew anything, I want to tell. Okay. Because it sucks that somebody has to, especially family, has to live with that going on.
And that's what, really got to me. Is like, how in the hell did somebody think I could do this? And that's been eating me my whole life. I want my name to this, and whoever did it, I want them to, have what's coming to them.
We want to make sure that every question that you have, we try to answer.
Sure.
We've asked District Attorney Todd Dillon and his Assistant DA Rob Fryer to join with us today as we all go over everything that we've learned. Why don't we start with the four suspects that kept always coming up in the case file. When you get back to this whole party thing, I think we were all working under the theory that there was a fight. Did we even completely confirm there was any kind of physical altercation at the party?
This is Chad McGregor when Natasha first arrived, but it was with him.
She sees me, gets angry, starts hitting me. I'm like, what the hell? She calmed down after I was like, I don't know what you're talking about.
After that happened, they were cool again.
Without the fight being corroborated by anyone, we don't have a motive.
Right.
There's no reason.
The thing that I thought was compelling is you have three statements from all these party kids, and other than Cindy Henning, who didn't want us to come see her, when we went back to talk to them again, and they're cooperative, and they're happy to talk to us, and they want to help, they're still consistent.
How in the hell did somebody think I could do this? And that's been eating me my whole life.
I put myself out there, and I told the grand jury everything.
If I knew anything, I want
There's no other vehicle involved. There's no tire tracks. There's no other people outside the car. Their doors were up. Their windows were up.
If you're the killer and you bring the car out here because you want to burn her in it, then you get stuck. Your plan didn't work very well.
True.
If you're her and you think you're looking for your right road and you only got this far, that makes a lot more sense.
No, I agree. We can't prove that anybody with intent to do anything.
Anybody out there at all.
At all.
For someone to be able to murder Natasha, they would have had to have been able to follow her, kill her, put her in the trunk of her car, set fire to the front seat rather than her body, all without even being able to open the vehicle and then escape without leaving any tracks. As crazy as it sounds that this fire was an accident, someone else being able to set it sounds impossible. And we feel confident that we can eliminate all these suspects and all these rumors.
These people are innocent.
And it's our job to say it loud and hard,
Absolutely.
even 30 years later.
Absolutely.
I think the problem that everybody here is going to have, you guys more than me because you live here in Texas, you're putting your chin right out there. You're going to face criticism. They're going to tell you that you don't know what you're talking about.
Remember, Rob, none of those guys have read every word of this file like we have, including the Rangers. They haven't. They don't have time to.
Right.
And I think the simplest answer is right in front of us. This was some type of a horrible accident.
I'm not entirely sure that anybody's ever looked at this as an accident first. Everybody kind of went to the conclusion that this had to be a murder.
Are we ever going to be able to say for sure what happened in that car, in her mind, to start the fire and make it burn for so long? No.
At the end of the day, we just end up finding closure for a lot of people that were being kids that ended up at a party and had no role in this, but were falsely accused for 30 years.
And that it's not even a murder.
Not even a murder.
And here we are because y'all let us look at everything, and so the Sheriff Department, so the Rangers.
Well, we're honored and privileged that y'all came and did it. I think it's been a learning experience for all of us and a very relieving experience for the 4 folks that you got up there on that board that have X's on them now.
Don't you think that's going to make him feel good to know that all of Natasha's friends were not involved?
I believe so.
Coming into this, I thought this was a murder, and I wanted it to be a murder so we could get justice for what happened to Natasha. But based on my experience and all that I've seen, the evidence is not there.
Morning.
Morning, little Chad. The last thing we want to do is tell Natasha's brother that nobody is responsible. But we can't make sense of this by blaming an innocent person. And it's just as important here to clear these suspects so they can move on with their lives too.
Well, it's been a busy 2 weeks since I talked to you, and at the end of all of this, with what happened to Natasha.
They are completely innocent. And the other thing, I'll tell you, I don't believe she was murdered. I don't think it's a murder. I wish we could tell you that we knew what started the fire. We don't know. We're never going to know. I believe it was an accident inside that car, and a lot of it was because of the state she was in that night.
I mean, that kind of makes sense. I mean, I can see that happening. I wonder where the fire started, but it's going to take a while to come to grasp with that. I guess because you don't have anybody to blame.
I just think it's very important for you to know it's not like we didn't quite have enough evidence against somebody. I don't believe that there's anything to look at anymore for any kind of murder investigation.
It's weird now, considering that this may have been accidental death. I can accept it. Would I have expected it? No. It's going to take a little bit to process, but I am glad that it's cleared a lot of people's names.
You're a victim here more than anybody but Natasha. You and your mom and your brother, right? You lost a lot of your life because of all this. And I think that what we would both tell you today is you need to move on. Can you please try to move on and put this behind you?
There's no option there.
That's what we want you to do. You handled it very well, you know.
Thank you.
Coming into this case where everybody believed it was a murder and figuring out that it was really just an accident might not seem like justice, but I think that being able to tell all these people, especially Natasha's family, that this is what happened and these are the answers, that is justice.